What is up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of the Fatboyz Dynasty Podcast, coming at you live on the Fantasy Holics Podcast Network, presented on YouTube. I'm Bo. That's Brant. Brant, listen, I just feel like this show had to be a trade episode. Feels like it's the right time. We're moving into Week 12 of the NFL world. There's only 2 weeks left to get yourself into the fantasy football playoffs. It's make or break season for a lot of the teams that are sitting at 500 or a game below, or even a game above, trying to get themselves fully into the playoffs, trying to lock that spot down and trying to make some trades. So what I did is I went on to one of my new favorite websites, which I told everybody about a couple weeks back, dynastydaddy.com, and I pulled some of the most recent real trades that have happened involving some of the most highly traded players at this point in the season. And I'm going to bring you those names, and we're going to play a game, Brant. I'm going to bring three trades that have gotten somebody else the particular player, and you're going to tell me that which part of the trade you would send, which part you'd accept, and which part would just be a cold rejection for you. And we'll get some reasoning behind that after we get into the show.
Okay, absolutely. Trade shows are always fun to talk about. We went over that, last week we went over some trades. So it's always fun to get involved with those. Trade deadlines probably this week in most leagues. And like you said, we're right around the corner from the fantasy playoffs. So I had a few strength of schedules that might shock some people that maybe you want to bury on your bench, some of these players, or handcuffs, or receivers that might still be out on the waivers. So I'm going to go over a few strength of schedules after we go over a few trades too. So and then we'll talk about that Thursday game a little bit, not too much. But I'm super excited to talk about this show. And like you said, you and me we kind of didn't know a topic to go over, so we're like, well, let's just banter back and forth with some trades.
I want to put you on the spot here as we're live. Can you commit to doing some rookie stuff next week, some incoming rookies, some early stuff for next season? Can we commit to that show next week? It requires a decent amount of research. I know next week's moving into Thanksgiving week, so it's a lot, but can you commit to that?
There's other rookies besides Gentry?
And Travis Hunter, and I want to go with some of the guys that maybe aren't super well known. Maybe talk about some of the little more relatively unknown players.
Yeah, I should be able to. It shouldn't be too big of an issue. Our show next week might have to come on a different day as we do have regionals coming up. But you and me will discuss that. But absolutely, I think I can get some rookies done this weekend while watching some football. I get to be home most of Sunday, it sounds like.
Very nice. Very nice. All right, Brant, you ready to get the bibs on?
Let's see.
Real quick, one more thing I want to add before we get into the show, Brant, is that a dear member of our Fantasy Holics team is entering a very tough battle in his personal life. Got some pretty devastating news this week. I won't put too much of his business out there, but those of you that do believe in it or don't, whether you send prayers or positive vibes, I'd ask that you send those over for Jay, the guy who does all our graphics for the page, for the show. He made the intro video. He does a lot of the behind the scenes stuff with Underdog as well. Very detrimental to this team and to our success. So I just want to say for the Fatboyz that we're definitely thinking of you, Jay. and we're here for whatever you need. Again, hopefully, everybody who watches will also send some good vibes your way. So here's to you, Jay. Speedy recovery coming to you.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right, let's jump into this trade show, Brant. So like I said, going to rip it off straight like a Band-Aid. We'll get through this, then we'll hit those strength of schedules, then we'll get out of here for the week. And I do think maybe we have to talk a little bit about Thanksgiving next week, because it is such a busy week, and I don't know when we can get the show out for sure. So it may be, we may have, as fat guys, it's, hey, we're 8 days away from Thanksgiving right now. It's kind of time to start getting excited about those tantalizing taste that we're getting ready to go to. So we'll see how this episode flows, whether or not we get to that. So all right, Brant, I'm going to start up. I sent you the trade so you can follow along. I did that so you didn't have to write it down in the middle of the show like we did the last time I did this to you. So let's start with the very first player. And this is a player I actually just recently traded for in a league that I'm currently in second place, one of my main leagues. That's Calvin Ridley of the Tennessee Titans. So obviously, since D-Hop moved, he's been playing really well, been the focal point for Will Levis, Will Levis has actually looked pretty good here as of late as well. So the three trades, I'm going to mix it up on you a smidge, Brant. I forgot a name in this when I sent it to you. So you're going to tell me which of these three trades you'd like to send away to get Ridley. And if you had Ridley, which one of them you would accept and which one you would reject. Okay. So Calvin Ridley, 2025 second round, and Deontay Johnson, a 2025 third and a 2027 second, and Adonai Mitchell. Which one of those are you rejecting? Which one are you accepting? And which one are you sending, and why?
So I'm the Ridley owner.
You can be the Ridley owner for the one that you're going to accept and reject, and then the other one is the one you want to send to go get Calvin Ridley.
If I'm the Ridley owner, I'm rejecting the Mitchell trade just because I'm not sure where that Indianapolis offense is going. We said we're benching Richardson, and then we benched him for 1 week and moved on. So I'm rejecting that one because I don't trust that offense. I'm accepting the 2025 second round pick and DJ if I'm the Ridley owner, because I'm going to assume if I'm moving Ridley right now, I'm probably looking to rebuild. So give me DJ. Excuse me. I'm not a big fan of the system he went to and going to Baltimore. But with this draft class, I do like that 2025 second. So I think I'll take that. And Johnson might still hang up enough numbers to keep me competitive for the rest of this year.
Okay.
And then I'm sending the 2025 third and 2027 second because I am assuming I am competing this year with Ridley. So I'm going to shove, 2 draft picks for the future out to try to obtain Ridley, just because I think that's probably the best trade there.
Okay. All right. So let me ask you, Brant, not about Ridley in general, but when it comes to making trades in Dynasty, okay, specifically just because it was brought up here, a 2027 second round pick. Now, obviously that's two and a half, little over 2.5 years away from meaning anything meaningful. But what do you like trading for Calvin Ridley? Is Calvin Ridley going to be in the league in 2.5 years? I would say yes, but who knows for sure? So, walk me through, why would you or would you not include picks 2.5 years out if you're trying to win a title this year?
I am including the pick 2.5 years out because it gives me 2.5 years to rebuild that pick and get that pick back. So if the team that has Ridley is accepting that gives me time to rebuild that pick or go back. Who knows? Maybe Ridley blows up next year and that's the only player, and I'm riddled with injuries. And I can ship Ridley and go get that second round draft pick back. So that's my thought process, is if I'm sending those picks out, I have time to get those back, because most people aren't diving 2-3 years in advance. So it might even be easier to get those picks back for cheaper if people aren't looking that far in advance.
Yeah, and I have to assume, again, this is a real life trade that was completed in the last 4 days that Dynasty Daddy was able to pull research from. I assume the 2025 third was the starting point And as a let's get the deal done, I'm done listening to it. I'm done talking about it. That 2027 second got included. But I agree, Brent. I think, and I don't know as though Calvin Ridley is necessarily that guy because the offense is still bad. I think he's got a chance to be a really good player in a bad offense. However, I'm not sure that that makes you enough of a win now team to justify this, because if you can guarantee a top 3 finish in your league, or better yet, if your team is so far ahead in a way better than everybody else, and this one player gives you that flexibility at wide receiver to make a deep run, then I think trading future picks beyond this year is very acceptable, because most of us would do anything to win a championship in our home leagues and to have that bragging rights over our buddies. But I just wanted to get into a real small caveat about those future picks, because again, not everybody plays Dynasty, and some people might be going, why the hell would I care about a 2027 draft pick? Well, again, if I'm selling Calvin Ridley as a team that I'm not competing this year, maybe I'm looking at my roster and I'm going, next year probably isn't it either. Let me have some ammo to compete in the future and to have something further to chase down the road. So I just wanted to get into that really quick. So
absolutely.
All right. So that was Calvin Ridley. Let's move on. Well, let me recap really quick. You would accept the 2025 second and Deontay Johnson to send away Calvin Ridley. If somebody sent you Adonai Mitchell straight up, you're rejecting that. And if you were chasing Calvin Ridley, you would be trying to give up a 2025 third and a future second round pick to acquire Ridley if you were competing. All right, next one, another wide receiver, Courtland Sutton. Okay, starting to have a pretty good season with Bo Nix really starting to come along. Courtland Sutton's definitely, still the alpha in that offense. Devon Vele looks really good as well, the 26 or 7-year-old rookie. But anyway, Courtland Sutton, Brant. Here are your options: 2 third-round picks, a 2025 second-round pick straight up, or Demario Pop Douglas and a 2026 third-rounder. Okay, which one of those do you want to start with?
So I'm accepting the 2025 second because I'm going to assume I'm in a rebuild. So that's the higher pick that I'm going to get. And third-round picks are normally dart throws. So I'm probably going to reject the 2/3. I'm probably going to reject. Okay. I know it's 2 picks over 1, but it's probably higher. And then I'm probably going to take the send off the Demario Douglas in 2026 round 3. Same reason. I have an extra year to get that pick back. It also gives a rebuilding team a chance to use that for ammo to try to rebuild their team as well. So that's why I would pitch that in. And I believe in the Bo Nix train and what they're doing there in Denver. So I'm willing to give up Douglas because I'm not completely sold on New England yet, because that offense it's still New England in my mind. So we just have to wait and see over the last few years. So I'm not completely sold on that yet.
Okay. All right. Move right along here. Let's go into one of the hottest names in fantasy right now. This player is on a bye week. So it's a little crazy to me how many trades there were with him. There was more trades involving this player in the last 4 days than any other player on this list, Brant. Taysom Hill. Let's talk about Mr. 3 touchdown performance last week. All right, I'm going to give you some offers here. Again, I think there's one that's just an awful lot of filler for me. There's not a whole lot there, but we'll go through it. A 2026 third-round pick straight up. The next one is Bucky Irving, Adam Thielen, and a 2025 second. Okay, I guess it's second, not a third. So that's a little better. And then the last one is Trey Benson.
I don't know if I accept any of these. Because I don't 90% of my league, I just got Taysom Hill off the waivers. I'm definitely rejecting the Trey Benson. I'm not going to ship Trey Benson. I'm not going to. I want Trey Benson over Taysom Hill all day. So I'm going to keep Trey Benson. So I guess if I'm the Taysom Hill owner, I will take Trey Benson.
Okay.
I think I don't like that Bucky Irving. Thielen at a second. I'm giving up a second and Bucky Irving, both who could have future value. So I think I don't think I would do that if I'm the Bucky. I'm not taking that for Taysom Hill. And I'd probably send a third round pick because, like I said, 97% of the leagues I'm in, I would just Taysom Hill's been sitting off on waivers except for that one huge league that I'm in that there's nobody on those. So, and I actually own him in that league. I drafted him, but that's where I'm at. Maybe I would send the third to go get him.
Okay. All right. Like I said, it's probably interesting that he was probably, like I said, the most trades out on him this week, or in the last 4 days specifically. And he was probably the number one guy off waiver claims in most leagues this week. I'd have to look into that a little bit, but I would be willing to bet there was a lot of, hey, I'm picking him up. I see 4 other people try to put in claims. Let me send some offers out and see what people are willing to give me to get him. So there you go. I think I agree. And I want to just touch on this really fast. That Trey Benson one's really interesting to me because the Saints are going to be in absolute cap purgatory next year and the year after probably. And let's be honest, let's call Taysom Hill what Taysom Hill is. He's a flash in the pan every year, and then he disappears, and we don't hear from him again. And every year, the fantasy community, we roster him at the beginning of the season. He doesn't do anything forever. He gets hurt. We drop him. All of a sudden, he goes for 40 points. Everybody's wasting their number one claim on him. He's good for another week, and then he disappears into the sunset. It's a rinse and repeat kind of thing with Taysom Hill. So, again, I'm not saying he's somebody you should be going out to get for your end-of-season push. He was just specifically one of the most traded for, or the most traded for player on that list, Brant. Now, here's one I absolutely do think is worthy of going to pick up if you're making that push and you need a running back. That's James Conner, Brant. So this one I'm excited about this one. These are super flex trades, by the way. I need to put in for all of these. They've been super flex. It hasn't mattered until this one because it's the first time you're going to have a quarterback. James Conner for DJ Moore, a 2025 second. And Bryce Young, who's finally starting to get on track in Carolina.
I would take all those, and I would acquire James Conner over all of this. So I would accept every single one of these if I'm the one getting James Conner. Understandably, I have to be in a good quarterback situation to ship Bryce Young, which I assume I was if I'm competing because he got benched for so long. DJ Moore just doesn't look like he's fitting with Caleb Williams all that great. Rome's coming on strong, so I'll go ahead and get rid of him before it gets tougher because they get in division. So they're about to see Detroit twice, Minnesota once or twice, Green Bay again. They have a tough schedule, so I don't know if I want anything to do with DJ Moore. So I would send that trade. I'm going to send DJ Moore to go get James Conner. That's the one I'm sending.
Okay.
I'll reject the 2025 second just for the sake of the game, and I would accept the Bryce Young if I'm in rebuild because it's super flex. You're probably not going to get a quarterback, so I would accept the Bryce Young one.
So you would move James Conner to get Bryce Young in a super
yes, if I'm rebuilding, because you're probably not going to get a quarterback at Bryce Young's caliber in the second round of a super flex draft.
Now, I do want to say, for the sake of saying things, we said Sunday morning on the show that we thought DJ Moore was in line for a bounce back with the new offensive coordinator, and he had 7 targets, 7 receptions, 62 yards. One of his better games of the season. Are you still completely unconfident in him moving forward?
I'm not confident in the Bears. They may be shutting it down and just see what they have here. Surely that division is rocking this year. So I'm not sure. I'm not confident in the Bears. We see that all the time with a new team. When you fire your head coach or you add a new OC, they blow up that first week and then it's back to shit fire. So yeah, I don't want any piece of that right now. I did go out and acquire Rome, but that was a future investment on my part in our Dynasty League.
Okay. All right. Moving on. Rico Dowdle for the Dallas Cowboys. This one's much more simple, a little less to digest here. Again, still a super flex. Garner Minshew, straight up. Dontavian Wicks, straight up. And the one that I think is the most obvious, in my mind anyway. Nick Chubb and a 2025 third for.
I'm rejecting the Minshew trade just because I think Minshew goes back to being a backup next year. I think you start to see, Raiders trying to move forward with their QB. So this is a backup quarterback. I'm going to have projection of 0 points all next year. So I'm going to go ahead and reject that one. I'm sending Dontavian Wicks to go get Dowell if I have to, get a running back to help that. And I'm accepting Nick Chubb in a 2025 third because I think Nick Chubb does still have some tread. So he'll help me tread this season. And if he breaks out this season and I'm a rebuilding team and I got Nick Chubb, all of a sudden next year, everyone's looking at him like he's the top 10 running back again. I might be able to get some more assets if I'm a rebuilding team.
Does the Nick Chubb and a third not feel like a steal?
It does. It does. Because like I said, even if you don't believe in Nick Chubb, if he breaks out the rest of this year, oh, hey, guys, look what I got. I got this shiny little thing here that everybody wants a top 10 running back. Give me your first-round draft pick, and all of a sudden I'm picking up a rookie in a rebuild.
And if he does come out and ball out, you got Nick Chubb or Rico Dowdle. Okay. All right. Moving on to the last running back I'm going to talk about on this one. J.K. Dobbins, Brant, who this one's near and dear to you. You do own him in one of our bigger leagues. So let's jump straight into this. 2 third-round picks for J.K. Dobbins, Darnell Mooney for J.K. Dobbins, and Ricky Pearsall in the 2025 second for J.K. Dobbins.
So I'm sending 2 thirds to go get Dobbins. I'm going to send 2 thirds. Okay. I know he had a decent week this week, but Gus Edwards came back. You and me talked about that. He was right back in the mix. I am rejecting Darnell Mooney. I'm rejecting it. He is fitting with that Atlanta offense. It's starting to click. I know you guys didn't have a very good week last week, but that's starting to click there with Darnell Mooney. And I've liked this guy for years. Even when he was in Chicago, he just didn't have the right personnel around him. And then so I'm rejecting that. I'm accepting this Ricky Pearsall in the 2025 second. I like Pearsall. I like what he's bringing to the table. And I also like the chance that I get another chance at a wide receiver or a running back in the 2025 second to try to replace Dobbins. So I'll accept that one.
Okay. All right. Moving on to our only quarterback on the list, Brant. And again, this is super flex. So this one I feel like is very extreme. You're either a serious contender on need of a quarterback or you're a serious rebuilder willing to get rid of older quarterbacks. Russell Wilson, formerly of your Seattle Seahawks, formerly of the Denver Broncos, currently the quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers, Brant. 2026 fourth and a 2025 third. Nick Chubb and Elijah Moore, so doubling up on the Cleveland Browns offense, or Jordan Addison.
I think I would send Nick Chubb and Moore if I am trying to contend this year, and this quarterback here who's I think he's been top 10 since he started, is there. So I think I'll send Chubb and Moore. I think I am accepting the Addison trade if I'm in a rebuild, and I think I'm rejecting that 2026 fourth and 2025 third. I just don't know if there's enough there for me. And I think Russ still has a few years under his belt, especially in Pittsburgh. It seems to be working for Pittsburgh. I know Fields did good, but, Pittsburgh struggled the last few years to hang points. And now all of a sudden they got a quarterback hanging 20, 30 points a game.
Okay. So what would the picks have to look like? Would you, in a super flex, are you thinking you still demand a first for Russ? Or
like
are
2
you
seconds?
Seconds. Okay.
Yeah, I just think you got it. Maybe a second and a third, because that was a third and a fourth, right? I just closed out, and of course now it wants to be slow.
Yeah. It was a 2026 fourth and a third this coming season. So
I think it'd have to be 2 picks in this draft, maybe a second and a third, maybe 2 seconds. 2 seconds probably would definitely get it done. I think a second and a third, we could be in talks.
Okay. All right, very good. All right, that does it for this, or for this portion of the show. So if you want to take us through the strength of schedules that you got, Brant.
If I were to tell you a team had Dallas, I'm going to skip this week because I might give away their quarterback. So they had Dallas, New Orleans, Baltimore, Atlanta, and Indy. They're a quarterback. What would you think of that quarterback to finish out the year?
Dallas, Who?
New Orleans.
New
Baltimore has been
Orleans.
torched all year. Atlanta,
Baltimore has been torched all year. Atlanta.
and Indy.
Is this Tommy DeVito?
It is Tommy DeVito, dude. Like I'm telling you, if
Tommy
you're in a
Cutlets.
Superflex, go get this kid. Go get him off waivers. I'm not telling you to plug him. Let's talk about who he gets this week. Tampa Bay.
Mhm.
He is green across the board, except for New Orleans. New Orleans a little rough, but they just got rid of Lattimore, and we've had 2 games without Lattimore. So
Mhm.
let's see. All right, so that is by far the easiest schedule for a quarterback remaining this year. So let's talk about what if I told you a team got Indy, Chicago, Green Bay, Buffalo, Chicago, San Fran.
Don't love San Fran in championship week, but the rest of it sounds okay.
That's old golf there in Detroit. Getting Chicago twice. Green Bay's, they have them as red team. I think they're still middle of the road. So yeah, this one's a tougher schedule in my mind. All right, one more for you. Washington, Jacksonville, Cincy, Indy, and Jacksonville again. I won't go over this week. So Commanders,
Yeah.
Cincy, Indy, and the Jags twice.
Why do I feel like this has got to be CJ Stroud?
No.
Will Levis.
Stroud's is pretty nice too. Stroud's is pretty nice. But there's a bye week in Stroud still. There's no bye week in Mr. Will Levis, who is slinging the ball. Let's think about it. Against Cincy, he's going to have to sling it to keep up. Washington starting to show it. Will Levis is another guy that could be very, very sneaky.
Will Levis has actually been kind of juicy the last couple of weeks here too.
All right, let's move on to a team. Go ahead.
Had a 99-yard touchdown completion this week to a guy you've talked about before.
Nick Westbrook-Ikhine.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so give me 1 second. I yell at my child. Sorry, kid has to go pick up another kid. I got to make sure she can go. So let's talk about this one here. They see Minnesota, Seattle, New England, Carolina, and the Rams.
This is a running back.
This is a running back.
They see Seattle, Carolina, Atlanta, and the Rams.
Minnesota, Seattle, New England, Carolina, and the Rams. This is one of my favorite running backs to finish the year.
Sounds like a really juicy playoff schedule to me.
Yeah, that's James Conner and Trey Benson, which I've talked about multiple times. These are guys to go get right now. These are great. He kicks it off against my Seahawks this week. So this is another one. How about this one? This one here. I want to put out. He does have a bye week. So Indianapolis, Arizona, Buffalo, and the Chargers. Rough championship week, but the rest is pretty nice.
Chargers are decent right now, too. Still has a bye week.
Mm-hmm. Could probably get him fairly cheap, even though he's been really decent. His name is still like everybody's wishy-washy on him.
Is this J.K. Dobbins? No, not playing the Chargers week 17.
He doesn't play himself.
Well, J.K. is one of the more wishy-washy names that I can think of. I'm trying to think of who else at the running back position has been wishy-washy.
He has not. It's just his name has been. He has been fairly consistent in my mind.
Hit me.
Ramondre Stevenson. This is a great schedule for a team that's been leaning on the run. I think he's seen 20 carries at least the last 2 weeks. This is a nice schedule for Ramondre Stevenson moving up. And, his name has been pretty wishy-washy. So those are 2 running backs that I really like, or 3 running backs that I really like moving forward. Trying to find. Let's go to receivers here. We'll do receivers real fast before we sum it up. Baltimore, Atlanta, Kansas City, Tampa Bay, Denver, New England.
Whoa.
Baltimore,
Atlanta, Kansas City, Tampa, and New England.
Yep. And then Denver's in there too the week before championship.
Oh my God. I don't like that matchup at all. Who's this?
Really? Baltimore is green. Atlanta is green. Tampa is green. This is your Los Angeles Chargers.
Hey, I'm the biggest Quentin Johnston fan you're going to find around these parts, Brant. Kansas City scares the hell out of me. New England has some shutdown corners with Christian Gonzalez. AJ Terrell can play good football occasionally. It hasn't happened for a few weeks, but maybe he's due. Trent McDuffie in Kansas City. I don't know. That scares me a little bit. Some of those have pretty good cornerback matchups. Tampa, I don't really love. Kyle Hamilton, if he gets back anytime soon, that scares me.
Well, he'd have to be back this week because that's who they get this week.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I could see being okay with those.
All right. Let me hit you with one more receiver. Cincy, Cleveland, Philly, Baltimore, Kansas City.
Ooh. Cincy. That one I think I like better than the Chargers matchups, even though there's some crossover there. Who's this one?
This is the Pittsburgh Steelers and Russell Wilson. I love these matchups for Russ and that Steelers offense that's starting to click. So there's some schedules, that are juicy out there that you could probably go get cheap. Another receiver that we talked about is Nick Westbrook. He has Houston, Washington, Jags, Cincy, Indy, and Jacksonville again. Great schedule for him moving forward to pair with Will Levis. These are just some guys that you guys could go out and put on your put out on your rosters and go, because you don't need that depth anymore. I know there's a few more bye weeks, but as long as you've made it through the most bye weeks, you don't need the depth anymore. Now it's time to, all right, if this guy goes down, can I plug this guy in? If this guy goes down, can I get his cuff? If this guy goes down, do I have the right one to replace it all? That's where you're at in your lineups now, as long as you've made it through all your bye weeks.
Just out of curiosity, if you've still got the strength of schedule page pulled up, what's a couple defenses just off the rip that have really nice championship or playoff stretches that you like?
Okay, Denver has the Raiders, Cleveland, then they have a bye. Then they have Indy, they got the Chargers, and then they have Cincy, who is very vulnerable to turnovers in the championship round. But this one's by far probably my favorite. Tommy DeVito, Bryce Young, Gardner Minshew. Then you may have to bench them as they go against Herbert. Probably Trey Lance by then. And then Bryce Young again in the championship. That is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense, is a phenomenal one to pick up. Here's one to avoid that I was preaching for the last 2 weeks. I'd like them this week. Get rid of your Dolphins. Green Bay, Jets, Houston, San Fran. And then you have Cleveland, who if you get, I can see clearly Jameson Winston, then that's a tough matchup.
Yeah.
Arizona has Seattle, who has struggled with turnovers. Minnesota, Seattle, New England, Carolina, and the Rams. So a lot of these defenses are good to stream, and then they have that tough playoff matchup. Tampa Bay by far is the best one to have here with, like I said, DeVito, Bryce Young, Minshew, probably Trey Lance if I had to guess, and Bryce Young again.
Yeah, those are tough. Some tough matchups there. Not really. I mean, Bryce Young's looking good. He's had a couple wins, but he's still not proven himself yet. So I mean, yeah.
Right.
The one I don't want to push back on. The one I want to say, like, I hear what you're saying, but putting them in my if I make it to the championship week and I roll out, who was it that you said had the the Broncos? Is that who you said had Cincinnati in the championship week?
Yep.
It would scare me an awful lot, even though I know Denver's been one of the premier defenses this year, to roll them out against the Cincinnati Bengals. If I make it to the championship week, I feel like, you'd be cutting some diamonds there potentially, because, man, Joe Burrow could throw 3 interceptions, but he could also throw for 3 touchdowns and 350 yards.
Right. Now the question is, how much are they playing for at that time?
True. They better get going if they're going to be playing for anything at that time. Right. All right. So I think that pretty well sums up this week. I know that we're going to be live Sunday morning. I'm, here this week. Brand's good to go. So Sunday morning is going to be a thing. We'll be live 10 a.m. Eastern time on Saturday. I do have my very first Thanksgiving this weekend on Saturday, so I'm excited to stuff my face already. But then I'm even more excited to get up and talk football with all of you guys. So I can't wait to see everybody Sunday morning, 10 a.m. Eastern time.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Super excited. I love our start sits. I appreciate you joining me this week and not making me have to drag through it while you were in Denver. But I'm super excited for Sunday morning. Be prepared. I might be starting something on the Fatboyz page that some of you gamblers have seen. I might be starting to do that starting tomorrow. I'm going to talk to Big Fat Bo right after we get off the air to see if he'd be interested in me throwing this together. I had to come up with something. I didn't just want to go with Fat Bo, so Big Fat Bo. But I'm going to throw something out there at you and see what you like. But as always, stay hungry
and stay fat, my friends.